instead of thyroid or instead of RA joints, OA joints, these are, you know, inflamed vagina, inflamed bladder, inflamed stomach lining. And they all do involve ulcerations at some point. For interstitial cystitis, there's Huner ulcers involved. I'm not actually going to go into a lot of detail on that. And then in peptic ulcer, we see ulcers, right, in the stomach lining. And in vulvodynia, there's so much pain. Sometimes there's ulcers and damage, epithelial damage seen there. And in all these cases, there's a link. It's high oxalates, which come from Candida and mold, and then its involvement with the afferent nervous system, nerve tissue messaging, and pain. So the microbiome, what do we know so far about it? So some initial culture-dependent things only showed a few species. You know, they thought, oh, it's not that big a deal because culture-specific ways of detections are very primitive, let's say. It's old school. It's definitely not Star Trek. So they did find, you know, standard characters: Candida albicans, Candida glabrata, Cryptococcus, Neoformans, Aspergillus fumigatus, of course, Coccyzoides, Histoplasma, Blastomyces. But they didn't really see more, definitive species with culture. And we know culture is just super limited. Depends on the media. And some may be, you know, kind of anaerobic, you know, there's a lot of problems. Now with next generation sequencing and using 18S and ITS, they are culture independent, and they discovered a huge array of terrain in fungal diversity. In fact, like hundreds. So these are the communities. I have a typo there, sorry. Communities are affected by a multitude of things they found: age, gender, environmental variations, hygiene. I know for clients, when they travel, they go to a hotel, or if they have mold toxicity and some of these, you know, calcification target diseases, anything can trigger them, you know, they can get triggered by breathing in mold in a building or a hotel room or a friend's home or an Airbnb, or, you know, any kind of new environment that they're traveling to. So it's not hard at all to change lab testing with just, you know, one change in the environment. The profiling data they found was very fluctuating compared to bacterial communities. And ever since antibiotics were introduced in the 50s, we know there's a lot of change with fungal communities. So Daliv et al., they use a mouse. I went over this yesterday, but prior to treatment, bacteria outnumbered the fungi in these mice by 3 orders of magnitude. So that's like 1,000-fold, right? After antibiotic treatment once, they were seeing a bacterial abundance it went down 3 orders of magnitude. So literally, like, the fungi, like, it went like that. And this led to increased fungi abundance by 40-fold. So with healing keystone flora bacteria, when they recede, what happens? They saw fungi went up 40-fold. That's pretty crazy, right? And after 2 months, though, these happen to be mice that eat their own poop and others' poop. They have their own source of probiotic. They healed, and they had completely pre-treatment value. So it doesn't apply to humans unless we take high doses of fecal microbiota transplant like probiotics. So interstitial cystitis, you know, we got to see a lot more just the last 10, 15 years because of this technology. They use the ribosomes of fungi, yeast and candida and mold. There's 18S, 5.8S, and 28S, the genes, and then they put primers there and they check them out. Another technology is ITS, and these are internal transcribe spacers, and they can look at these non-coding areas you know, really drill down the unique identification of fungi. This is very similar to the 16S and qPCR we see done with bacteria, like when we do a GI map or other more advanced studies, 16S studies. So this next-gen sequencing is just such a big thing to connect the dots that we all understood and knew earlier. You take an antibiotic, you wipe out good things. Now you're going to get the overgrowth of non-bacterial things and the most worst species of most drug resistant of the bacteria. Not fun, not good when you're caught in the crossfire. So here's the healthy state of a good set of kidneys and bladder. pH is neutral, 4.6 to 7. There's a predominance of healthy lactobacilli in women. They've seen a lot of Lactobacillus crispus. I think for men as well, healthy men usually have healthy female partners. There's a good woman behind every good man. And she's full of Lactobacillus crispus. So we're spreading our wealth everywhere to our kids, our lineage and their lineage, our partners, a partner, everywhere. So other flora there, Prevotella, Corynebacterium, Gardnerella, Shigella, all seen potentially in the bladder. And then with risk factors, low estrogen, age, catheterization, barrier contraceptives, IUDs included, spermicide-containing condoms, any kind of nerve damage, that's a risk factor, antibiotics, of course, any kind of immunocompromised state or diabetes, lack of control of glycemia and other pre-existing or anatomical urinary conditions. They will lead to a higher pH and then proliferation of pathogens, E. coli, Enterococcus, Staphylococcus, Gardnerella, and a reduction in keystone lactobacilli. And the pH can go up. It can be seen as high as 9.0. So here's the pathogenesis and more about the gut involvement. Risk factors for urinary tract infections are related to the gut microbiota. UTIs can be influenced by different risk factors that are related to the gut, the GI tract. These uropathogens can thrive after decreases in the commensals. And alterations in the GI microbiota can lead to an increase in uropathogens in the GI reservoir. These are seen by various researchers. Even estrogen fluctuations, as I went over for BV and candidiasis for women, these occur for the bladder as well. I'll show you one study where estriol does rescue for and reduce recurrent UTIs. This is a really great picture. I love it. So what's the epidemiology for recurrent UTIs? Well, anatomical things that lead to stasis, obstruction, reflux in the bladder, they can all lead to more recurrent UTIs. Atrophic vaginitis. Just like we can have atrophic gut, atrophic vaginitis can occur, and this actually will increase a UTI risk. Bladder diverticula, where they're not draining, cystitis or pelvic organ prolapse. I do my Kegels. Do you do your Kegels? Yes, no one wants to have a prolapse. Big risk factor for recurrent UTIs. Anytime where we're having like a hernia or loose collagen, these are not ideal. So always, I think, to stay healthy, exercise, keep your smooth muscle really healthy. Take vitamin C as well. Functional defects, overactive bladder, urinary incontinence, they all lead to a risk of recurrent infections and UTIs. Incomplete treatment of an acute UTI can sometimes lead to reoccurrence. Older men can also develop UTIs due to prostate issues, outlet obstruction, neurogenic bladder, any kind of incomplete bladder emptying.